How hard is patch 8.3 content, really? Whether you just came back from a break, if you have alts, or if you're just not very well geared. I decided to find out on the PTR just what that's like, and I'm going to share my findings to reassure you, or to horrify you. So don't think of this as a guide, although I am going to tell you my own best practices as I walk you through. Hey, it's Soul with another video. Don't forget to hit the like button if this information is helpful, and to subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. You might be familiar with my guides on how to prepare in advance of a patch, so your experience is as easy as possible, but what if you're not as prepared? Or what if you just don't give a damn? This is for you. In this test, I went way out of my comfort zone and used none other than my auction house character, a freshly leveled warrior. Thank you, Korak's Revenge. And when I mean fresh, I really mean fresh. This is a class that I don't know how to play, with less than 250 item level and a neck level of 1. But hey, I have an Ice Barb Spear, cool. Thanks again, Korak's Revenge. To access 8.3 content, you must have completed the Heart of Azeroth questline that unlocks essences, and there is no going around this. The good folks over at Wowhead have broken down the bare minimum requirements, which is to complete the introduction into the expansion, be at max level obviously, unlock world quests, and then access the Heart Forge and essences, and the game is going to pretty much steer you in this direction. For me personally, I just needed to unlock essences on this character, so go me. If you're at this stage, you're automatically going to receive the quest The Wolf's Offensive for the Alliance, or the War Chief's Order for the Horde. Continue through this questline, which is going to take you to Nazjatar for the very first time. And here's where I ran into a really obvious problem in like the second, third quest in this zone. I'm just way too undergeared. It's so sad. Oh, I'm dying! Oh crap! Extra button. Oh, save me. Come on. I feel like I'm soloing a dungeon. I gotta utilize every inch of— oh crap! No! Fighting this named NPC, it felt like trying to solo a dungeon. And believe me, I tried. I even took a few tips from people on stream when I was recording this. Oh, commanding shout's not ready. No! So after a lot of failing, I gave in. I went to pick up a few pieces of benthic gear to replace my old Legion gear. Legion gear, yeah. And then I was okay. So if you were leveling normally, you would probably be at, I'd say around 260 something, 270 item level by the time you hit max. And most reasonable people who are on alt will have mono pearls or benthic gear to trade down to your other characters anyway. More than anything though, this is where I have to point out the biggest flaw of this kind of testing. I'm alone. Odds are good that multiple people are going to be doing this scenario at any given time thanks to sharding, or you can ask someone in general chat for help. Thanks to party sync, that's possible too. But for the sake of getting over this hurdle alone, you're going to be okay with an item level of around 280, at least that's what I was at. This of course depends on your class, and I'm sure pep classes would do a lot better. Whatever the case, this freaking quest is probably the biggest obstacle for a freshly leveled character. Once you're able to progress past this, you'll start getting some gear upgrades, and you'll go on a short adventure to obtain your very first essence. Here's a nice change. When you finish and you activate the Heart Forge, your neck level will bump all the way up to 50, up from 35, so you're going to be a lot closer to unlocking additional essence slots. The moment you return to your capital, you can start doing this 8.3 content, but first, I happened to go back to Nazjatar to do some quick follow-up quests that scored me some gear upgrades and pearls for more upgrades. I could have went off to do some world quests for gear to make my life a heck of a lot easier, but come on, where's the fun in that? So here we go. Undergeared Fury Warrior, have no idea how to play other than hitting the flashy buttons, off to adventure, starting in Uldum. You could say that I was super underprepared for this content, but from the feel of things, it felt like my character was exactly what this content was designed for. Let's see how bad it hurts. Oh, it hurts! It hurts a lot! Oh shit! Oh, my face! Whew. Oh god. Kill him! Oh god. The world felt dangerous, mobs were threatening, I had to be careful what I pulled, I had to use self-sustaining abilities and obey mechanics. I even had to sit down and eat food. Wow. Ever see this? Eating food? Classic, 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 yeah. I should also point out that what you see me fighting here in the outdoors is going to be different from your experience because assault objectives are going to continuously rotate every couple of days. Anyway, completing the scenario and the outdoor objectives, it's not going to be a short experience. It's going to take anywhere between 1.5 to 3 hours, depending on your gear and your character's ability to travel and teleport. But I had fun. I had to totally shift my mental state away from the go 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 mentality that some of us are used to, and just realize I'm a scrub in bitch ass gear. I mean, come on, I still have heirloom gear on. So once I relaxed and immersed myself into this character, it felt like a game, an adventure. And this is after I've gone through this entire opening sequence with better geared characters like a dozen times throughout this testing. Anyway, when you finish up in Uldum, you'll get your first corrupted piece of gear, which always seems to be bracers. To be honest, I didn't even notice the debuff while questing. I mean, I was standing there anyway, like I would either finish the fight or the fight would finish me. You'll also get a DPS essence where the major and minor traits are worth using, they're pretty strong. But anyway, our next stop is over at the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. This could be tougher or easier than Uldum, depending on what kind of assault you're doing. Like in Uldum, there are different objectives to pursue, depending on if you're alone or undergeared. The zone is obviously a bit more dense, so I have to be a bit more aware of my surroundings. Every type of assault has some sort of short-term buff that's pretty darn strong, and it easily compares to the damage that I'd otherwise do on my own. The DPS essence was a huge help too, giving me an execute that I can use often if I timed it right. Certain pulls and mobs were still dangerous though. Elites weren't much of an option unless I had an opportunity to get credit for a mob tag. No. Oh, Hope's Flame. I get a res. It's not gonna do me any good though. I'm still gonna die. Oh. Yep. I don't think I'm gonna make it again. Come on. Come on. Live. I made it, bitch. How you like that? How you like that? The same goes for rares. With decent enough gear, you're able to handle some of them on your own, but many of them have many millions of health. So up to this point, I'm able to progress through the content at a reasonable pace. But I've been testing the PTR for months now. I have a pretty good grasp of where to go and what to do, just like anyone else is eventually going to on their ults. I noticed that when I walked into my first regular vision, that I was a lot more cautious. There's an easy daily to complete while you're here, but screwing up and getting yourself killed or running out of sanity would feel disastrous because you can only visit these once per day. Dying or losing sanity would get you kicked out, and I was more worried about dying. What's important here too is that these are shared zones, so you're going to see other people here too. It's hard to say whether that's going to be good or bad because there might be certain objectives that maybe you're trying to click on or you're trying to save NPCs and other people are doing it and otherwise kind of stealing your credit. And for sure, I'm not going to come in here with war mode on. That said though, I ended up dying in here, which was really discouraging. Well, I didn't really want to fight that, but oh well. This resulted in me missing out on 1,000 coalescing visions, which I'll talk about some other time. It's not a huge deal, but it was kind of a setback. It's kind of a bummer. So it made me really nervous when I hopped into my first horrific vision. Before hopping in, you should definitely consider raising your item level so you don't fudge a run, but on your very first run, it's not a big deal if you fail it. As for me though, nah, I'm just gonna go in. So I happened to go in with an item level of about 350 something, that's what I got to at this point. I knew my goal was mostly to get to the end boss right away and take him out before my sanity ran out or before I died. Fortunately, and surprisingly actually, I did it without too much trouble at all. So I just went back in, again and again, until I ran out of keys to enter, and at that point, this test was considered over. So here's where we stand. I started at an item level of around 280 something and ended at item level 358. Among them, my most pathetic pieces were still my rings and trinkets, which were still from Legion. The big upgrades came from my new legendary cloak, the Azeroth chest from completing an assault, and 2 pieces of corrupted gear that have some pretty decent procs. My neck level is now at 57, giving me an extra essence slot, and I got 4 new essences between my specs. My cloak is at rank 4 after doing 4 horrific vision runs, and mind you, this is on the first day. My corruption is at 0, despite having 2 pieces of corrupted gear, and this is thanks to the new essence and cloak upgrades that give me corruption resistance. And this took roughly 3 hours to complete, which is about double the time it's taken for my main to complete the same thing. A skilled player would probably go faster under the same conditions, and a well-geared DPS spec class could likely finish in less than 90 minutes with some practice. So, can an undergeared character jump straight into 8.3 content? There's a pretty low bar to hit, but the answer is absolutely yes. Blizzard did a decent job of ensuring that the tools you need to progress are given to you throughout the questing. And in the open world, there are plenty of options and bonuses to help complete your objectives if you're running solo. There are challenges for sure, but towards the end, horrific visions, which is what I was most worried about, weren't that big of a deal. I know that this last part should be saved for a review, which I'm going to have coming later, but my biggest gripe about this intro, at least in its current state, are that there aren't any travel skips. The grumbling on the forums indicates that some players would like to totally skip the introduction, but I think that's going a little bit too far. It's kind of like wanting to skip all of the Argus content back in patch 7.3. There is a considerable amount of travel though, between Uldum, the Vale, and scenarios that will take us to Mogushan Vaults, Mogushan Palace, Blackwing Descent, and the Halls of Origination, twice. So if there were at least more travel skips, that would be pretty darn helpful. So once again, I hope this information was useful, and if so, like the video and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. But otherwise, we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.